relaxation techniques, specifically focusing on areas of the head. And in order to kind of help you visualize some of that stuff, I've employed the use of a dummy head here, obviously. So this is either going to be the most relaxing video I've ever done, or potentially the creepiest video I've ever done. So hopefully it's not too off-putting, especially in the lighting and everything in this room. But I assure you, it's meant to be relaxing as well as instructional, so you can see what I'm talking about. So, as you can see, I don't have like a wig on it or anything like that, because the hair is not really important. It's more about kind of positioning on the head of certain points of stress. Like all of my videos, this is not going to be medical advice or anything like that. It's just anecdotal advice from one friend to another, just stuff that I've experienced and things that work for me. And also it's a good excuse to talk about a little bit of my history with ASMR relaxation and kind of where I first started getting those head tingling sensations. And actually that's a great place to start off. One of the first tricks that I ever learned was actually when I was very young. I know on my YouTube page it says that my first ASMR experience was with Bob Ross videos. To a certain extent that's true, but I just remembered today actually while I was kind of putting together some of the research and planning for this video that the first time I really experienced those kind of head tingling sensations kind of right back here, and then for me it also kind of spreads to the sides of my head after it starts in this back region right here, was when I was very young, and I was hanging out with a friend, and he taught me this weird little game. It's meant to be kind of an illusion, but I don't know if my friend experienced the relaxing sensations that I ended up going through when he taught me this little trick, but it's something that I've employed once in a while ever since then, for the last couple of decades. And basically, you've probably heard of this, or if you haven't, it might be vaguely familiar, but the idea is to pretend like you're cracking an egg, like just a raw egg, over the top of your head, and then kind of giving yourself the sensation of the egg running down all the sides of your head, like all around your head, 360 degrees, like it's a liquid, kind of just slowly kind of pouring down your head. I know it sounds maybe kind of, it might be disturbing for some people, but it's actually kind of a funny illusion when somebody else does it to you. But when you do it to yourself, it's more like kind of a calming massage almost. So the way you do it, I mean, you really just use your imagination. You just reach up to the top of your head up here. So reach your hand up and just, tap on the top of your head, and then pretend like the egg's breaking, and then just as lightly as you possibly can, surround your head with your fingers to kind of, simulate the egg running down your head. I know it seems a little weird, I'll be the first to admit that, but I find it to be very relaxing. It's, the end result is not unlike, giving yourself a hand massage or, kind of rubbing your shoulders, but it's, because it's so focused on the head area, it is pretty good at ASMR response if you are sensitive to that sort of thing. So once again, you just sort of pretend like the egg is running down your head, and you can even kind of, extend out the sensation down your neck and all that stuff. It's something that I find very helpful, especially if I have a headache, or, obviously there are different kinds of headaches. Like, some of them will, start back here, or sometimes you'll get them kind of in your temples. Sometimes they'll start up front around here. And, I found that people will employ all sorts of different techniques depending on the kind of headache they have. But the cool thing that I found about this little egg breaking technique is that it works for me personally for any kind of headache that I have. It's a nice way to supplement the effects of a basic painkiller like aspirin or ibuprofen, whatever you choose to use if it's that bad of a headache. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I also thought it was interesting because it might be more appropriately my first recorded sensation of ASMR, especially the really intense ASMR that begins back here and kind of spreads to the sides of my head. That's for me the way it manifests itself in its kind of most intense form. And of course, the sensation will pass down and often kind of into my upper back, and it's really relaxing. It's really kind of it loosens my muscles and just allows me to it's like an off switch for my anxiety and my panic and all that stuff. And it's been instrumental in helping me get through some of my more intense phases of kind of psychological distress after being stressed out for a long period of time with school and a bunch of other stuff. So that's one thing. So another kind of related technique that you can use to kind of, elicit ASMR responses, or at the very least, give yourself some nice relaxation, is, it's very similar to the egg breaking on your head, but instead it's just kind of reaching up and kind of, it sometimes helps if you have longer fingernails, but you can kind of, you have to imagine here for a second that there's actually hair. I'm assuming you have hair. I don't have much, but it still works. So you can find various patterns that you can make with your fingers, and you can kind of surround parts of your head with your fingers. I like to make little kind of circular patterns like this. I know it looks kind of terrifying, but it's totally meant for relaxation. Yeah, you can kind of go around your head, and it helps to visualize, almost like a very light massage over your head. And obviously, you have so many nerve endings in your scalp and all that it doesn't require a very heavy touch to get the desired effect. And it doesn't have to be circles. It could be, kind of lightly tracing on your head with your fingers, for instance. And it usually helps to just barely touch the scalp, if at all. Usually you just want to brush over the hair, kind of lightly. And I like to do that to just relieve stress throughout the day. It can head off some nasty headaches once in a while. I found it to be very useful. And of course, you can continue to extend out this concept by kind of lightly tracing not only on your head but over your neck, especially in areas where stress tends to accumulate. For me, I tend to get a lot this area. And so I find kind of lightly tracing over that area can really help, just lightly over the hair so that you're barely touching yourself, but you're just getting the occasional brush of your hair, which, kind of translates to the scalp. And it's almost like, I sort of see it as your imagination kind of filling in the gaps, because you're not, going at, like, aggressively giving yourself a head rub like you're scratching your scalp or something if you've got an itch. It's more like, just gently touching yourself so much that it kind of allows your brain to fill in the gaps of a head massage. And I think a cool side effect of that is that it really kind of it triggers the same parts of my brain that ASMR is involved with. So I'll often end up kind of creating my own ASMR again, just like with that egg breaking effect. Same sort of principle. So of course the unifying idea here is that you're only barely tracing over your head and kind of visualizing where your hands are. And it really helps to kind of fast track your relaxation. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Okay, so the next logical place to go with this is to be maybe a little more firm with how you touch your head, so that you're actually tracing lines over your neck and shoulders and head, but not lightly. You're actually, you're tracing your scalp firmly enough so that you can kind of feel it, kind of creating lines over your head. And of course, sometimes it's better just to use one finger. It's probably better if I use this angle so you can see better. Trace fingers over the bisecting lines of your head, and obviously it'll work from the sides as well. Sometimes it's better to do it with just one finger, and then other times, you kind of want to trace the same lines but with multiple fingers. And I find this to be very relaxing. It's not so much like a deep tissue massage or anything that intense. It's a very light thing, but slightly more firm than what I was talking about before. You're actually making skin contact. And of course you can combine all of these techniques with like harder pressure at certain points where you're feeling a lot of stress. So I like to combine a lot of these techniques throughout the day into sort of an on-the-fly custom self-head massage. I think a lot of us do this stuff kind of naturally or subconsciously, but I'm really surprised at the amount of people that haven't tried to do this. And it could be for any number of reasons, like not being comfortable kind of with their own bodies, or just because they don't really, it's just not something they've ever considered for whatever reason, and that's fine. But if you're one of those people, definitely give it some consideration. It's you can actually do a lot for yourself in terms of relaxing head and shoulder massage without needing to go pay for one. So just a little bit of friendly advice there. Okay, so next I want to talk about some related issues for relaxation. And one of the most important issues for relaxing yourself and keeping calm throughout the day and thinking rationally is breathing. I know you've probably heard a million times that you're supposed to take, deep breaths in and out, in and out. And that's true once in a while, but I honestly feel like you don't want to go too crazy with that all the time, and sometimes it's better to actually kind of breathe in and out at a more natural pace. I think the bigger concern is that a lot of people I've noticed seem to hold their breath unnaturally, and they do this kind of in a subconscious way, so they never think about how much they're actually breathing consistently throughout the day. And that's a really bad thing. It causes a lack of oxygen in the blood and the brain, and causes you to become tired and fatigued very quickly. And overall, it's just really bad for you. So, at the very least, if you explicitly think about your breathing throughout the day, you'll be very surprised at how often you catch yourself holding your breath. I'm really guilty of it myself, so I understand completely. And, in exercise, it's not even so much an exercise, it's a thought process that I've kind of had to rewire myself to make habits of every, 10 minutes or so. I just spend just a moment thinking about whether I'm actually breathing properly, and I find often that I'm not. This is especially true if I'm doing something that involves both the digital realm and stress. So, what's the first thing you think of combining those two things? Email. So what I mean by that is I could be at work checking my email, and often the nature of those emails could be, I don't want to say overtly stressful, because I'm very lucky to have a job that's fairly low stress, but any business-related email has a tendency to sort of tense the muscles up. As soon as you open it, you're sort of expecting to have to deal with something at least somewhat intense. At least I found that for me. Again, I suffer from anxiety issues, and although those are getting better, not everybody may experience those things to the same extent that I do, so I'm sensitive to that. But a surprising amount of people do experience that stress, even if it's just a little bit, when they open their email. So that becomes doubly important for you to start checking your breathing at regular intervals through the day, and to make that a healthy habit. You don't need to go overboard with huge, long, drawn-out breathing in and out motions. After all, you don't want to hyperventilate, but you just want to make sure that you're breathing at a comfortable rate that's not accelerated through stress. So building on that issue, there's another related issue, and that is unconsciously tensing your muscles throughout the day. This is where you get a lot of the tension headaches that people talk about online, especially. I see in some of the forums that I read for anxiety and all that stuff. And personally, I tend to keep a lot of my stress built up in my shoulders and kind of my lower neck area. I keep a lot of pressure built up right here at the base of my head. I get pressure around the temples, and then also sometimes in the frontal lobe region here. So I imagine these are pretty typical areas for people to build stress up in, and something that you can do to relieve that issue throughout the day is basically the same thing you do when you're checking your own breathing, which is you have to train yourself. If you've seen my previous videos, I talk a lot about brain rewiring. Well, this is one of those practical applications of rewiring yourself to get into the habit of checking your kind of the state of your body and mind every once in a while. And so just as you do that with breathing, you've got to maybe start doing it with your muscle tension. And I can't tell you, this is probably the most surprising thing for me, is I'm your central nervous system, as well as acutely raising your chances of having anxiety attacks and all that stuff. So you can do wonders for your state of mind and your general health by checking your muscle tension once in a while and just explicitly forcing yourself to kind of almost go slack. So you let your muscles just kind of fall. And this is something I do all the time, and I can't tell you how much it has helped having kind of a calm state of mind throughout the day. I can't believe how often I've been clenched up. So anyway, you'll definitely want to kind of test yourself throughout the day. That's what I like to call it, kind of quiz your body and your mind for their current state, and make an explicit attempt to kind of fall, kind of slack, like let your muscles go slack, and kind of fall into a state of relaxation. That doesn't mean you need to fold up like a wet noodle or anything like that, but it's good to kind of go through each muscle group, kind of be very explicit about thinking from like the top of your head down to your feet. Kind of query each muscle group and think, how tense am I in this part of my body right now, and is it possible to be less tense there, and then kind of focus on that muscle and relax it explicitly, and just do that kind of group, muscle group by muscle group throughout your whole body. After you've practiced this a few times, you'll be very surprised at how naturally it comes. It'll almost become second nature, and it's a great technique to combine with some of the sort of self-relaxation techniques and kind of head massage techniques that I was telling you about before. And these are all part of this kind of routine that I've naturally developed for myself, just through experimentation of things that relax me versus things that don't really work. And you'll develop your own kind of little self-relaxation techniques. But I've found that I always got a lot of utility out of reading other people's material as well as watching videos about what works for them. And I was really surprised at how much I learned from other people. I thought, well, surely I know my own body best, so it's absurd that I could learn anything from someone else. But of course, that ended up not being true. And I got a lot of really useful information about relaxing myself from other people who have been through the same things. So I hope that's what this video has done for you, at least to a certain extent. And I think that this information will provide a good kind of supplemental material for some of the videos I've done on anxiety and derealization and all that stuff, because these things are all related. The way you check your body and mind to make sure that you're as relaxed as possible, to make sure that you're breathing in and out naturally and not holding your breath or holding stress in your joints, as well as doing other things like the brain rewiring that I was talking about, or just making sure to avoid a lot of the stressors of daily life that can be replaced with positive things. And that's one of those things I haven't talked about much, but I'm sure I'll ramble about a lot in future videos. So just to recap, we started off with the breaking the egg technique. Silly, but it works. Where you break the egg and then sort of simulate it washing over your entire face and the back of your head and everything. And then we went over kind of tracing lines over the scalp. First, just by hovering gently over the hair and not actually touching the scalp. And then tracing more explicit lines over the head. course, that helps us combat the fact that some of these daily stressors cause us to hold